Imagine a young nation, fresh off a revolution, really grappling with its identity. How does it actively shake off the cultural echoes of its former colonial master and forge something distinctly new, a national voice that truly reflects its unique ideals, its experiences? We're talking about more than just politics here. We're diving deep into the very soul of a culture. In this deep dive, we're going to explore how a unique American national culture really blossomed between, say, 1800 and 1848. You'll discover how those deep European roots were, well, selectively pruned, mixed with burgeoning American elements and vibrant regional flavors. And all of this was heavily influenced by new liberal social ideas and the powerful surging currents of Romanticism. Our mission is to unpack this pivotal era, showing you how a young America made this seismic shift, moving from that cool, rational Enlightenment thinking to a culture just pulsating with emotion, fervent individualism, and a groundbreaking belief in human perfectibility. To guide us through this fascinating transformation, we've gathered a rich stack of sources for you. We've got incisive historical analyses of cultural shifts, excerpts from foundational American literature, philosophy, detailed architectural descriptions, too. Get ready to connect some truly surprising dots. Okay, let's unpack this journey then. For a long time, American art, philosophy, architecture, they're largely content to just echo European trends, but something fundamentally shifted in the early 19th century. This wasn't just a gradual evolution, was it? It felt more like a deliberate declaration of cultural independence.
Yeah, it really did. And what's fascinating here is the active rejection of pure European dominance. I mean, sure, those influences certainly remain. You can't just erase them. But American thinkers and artists began to filter them through a uniquely American sensibility. And this was driven by a major philosophical pivot. The move from that cold, angular Enlightenment rationality to the warmth of emotion and individual desire, the embrace of Romanticism.
That's a profound reorientation, especially for a nation kind of founded on Enlightenment reason. What specific aspects of American society, or maybe its developing identity, made it so uniquely receptive to this embrace of romantic emotion?
Well, it's a perfect storm, really. On one hand, you had these powerful liberal ideals, individual liberty, equality, and republicanism. That core idea of self-governance by citizens, not monarchs, right? These concepts, while, yes, born of Enlightenment reason, were now being infused with the passionate romantic belief in every individual's inherent dignity and potential. This pivot from pure reason to romantic emotionality and individualism was exceedingly important for defining America's national character. It truly marked a cultural coming of age. It gave Americans permission to feel, to dream, and to believe in their own unique destiny.
Okay, so this new cultural spirit was in the air, swirling with emotion and individualism, actively seeking its own voice. So where did it actually show up? Let's look at the fascinating ways it manifested across different cultural spheres. Starting with the written word, maybe? America wanted to tell its own stories. Yeah, and you might be surprised to learn that early Americans were avid readers of British writers like Sir Walter Scott, huge influence. But soon, distinct American voices emerged, actively working to craft a national narrative. What was the first real sign that America was demanding its own literary space?
A foundational step, I'd argue, was Noah Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language in 1828.
Hmm.
And this wasn't just some academic exercise in cataloging words. No, it was a defiant cultural statement.
Yeah.
By standardizing American English and even altering spellings, think color becoming color, it forged a national linguistic identity separate from Britain's. It essentially declared, look, this is how we speak, this is our language now, a big deal.
Right, drawing a line in the sand linguistically. And then came the storytellers. Washington Irving gained international fame with tales like Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Hmm.
What made these so uniquely American beyond just the settings in the Hudson Valley? How did he give us our own compelling myths?
Well, Irving didn't just borrow European romanticism. He proved America could create its own compelling national mythology. That was key. By masterfully blending European romantic themes with distinctly American folklore, recasting our landscapes and people into a world of fantasy.
Yeah.
He gave a young nation a powerful, indigenous, imaginative space. It was essentially declaring literary independence. Then you have someone like James Fenimore Cooper, whose Last of the Mohicans romanticized the opportunity and, well, the danger of America's mysterious western lands, really tapped into that yearning for the frontier and our expanding identity.
And for those who prefer a darker twist, there's Edgar Allan Poe. He explored raw emotion, imagination, the more unsettling aspects of the human experience in works like The Raven and The Telltale Heart. How did his particular brand of romanticism, focusing on the darker aspects of the inner world, resonate with, or perhaps even challenge, the broader optimism of the era?
That's a great point. Poe wasn't just an American writer, he was a quintessential romantic, diving deep into the individual's inner world, exploring the subconscious, the terrifying. His work resonated because it tapped into that universal human experience of fear and mystery. But in an American context, it also offered a psychological counterpoint to the era's sometimes boundless optimism. It reminded people that even in a pursuit of perfection, humanity has its shadows. And this intense focus on individual experience and human dignity wasn't confined to fiction, though. It profoundly fueled real-world struggles for justice. You see it exemplified by powerful abolitionist narratives like Leonard Black's 1847 story. That drew on those very romantic ideals of individual liberty and human dignity.
Okay, so if literature gave voice to the individual American soul, then art began to paint its emerging identity across these vast landscapes. So from the written word, let's turn our gaze to the canvas. What were American artists doing to capture this new national spirit?
The Hudson River School became a cornerstone of American art. They portrayed these vast, often idealized landscapes. These artists expressed a deep romantic reverence for nature, seeing it as a source of spiritual truth. And alongside that, a belief in America's unique, sometimes seen as divinely ordained, destiny. Figures like Robert Duncanson, an African-American painter, were part of this tradition too, reflecting Romanticism's focus on nature's sublimity and transcendence. It really highlights the diverse voices that contributed to this vision.
So if accuracy sometimes took a backseat to emotion, as you said, how did the public respond? Were there critics who felt this idealization maybe missed the reality of a rapidly changing America?
Well, they were popular, no doubt. But yeah, these paintings were indeed more about the feeling they evoked than strict photographic accuracy. They often depicted these really dramatic renditions of American landscapes, emphasizing sentiment and emotion. What's particularly insightful, I think, is that they sometimes included subtle hints of the encroachment of civilization, maybe a lone axe, a distant smokestack, which these artists felt had arrived to sort of spoil nature's perfection. It captured a complex view of progress and loss that definitely fueled public debate.
All right, now, for something truly unique to American thought, transcendentalism. It feels like such a profoundly American philosophy in its idealism, its connection to nature, and that intense focus on the individual's potential.
It absolutely does. This emerged as a distinctly American philosophy, really rooted in the romantic view of nature's transcendent power and beauty. And it powerfully emphasized the belief in human perfectibility. That radical idea that individuals could achieve a higher state of moral and spiritual being really shaped their own destiny.
Leading the charge was Ralph Waldo Emerson. What were his key ideas that truly resonated with the American spirit, encouraging people to look inward and to nature for truth?
His essays, like Nature and Self-Reliance, they became foundational texts. Really important. They emphasized radical individualism and self-reliance, embodying those core romantic ideals, spirituality in nature, the innate goodness of humanity, and of course that potent belief in human perfectibility. He encouraged people to trust their intuition, connect directly with the divine within nature, bypassing traditional institutions.
And his friend, Henry David Thoreau, took these ideas quite literally to the woods, didn't he? He really put these ideals to the test.
Oh, absolutely. Thoreau exemplified transcendentalist ideals by living simply in nature at Walden Pond, famously documented in his book, Walden. He sought to understand the great truth about life and the universe through direct, unadulterated experience, and to see if human perfection was truly attainable by stripping away societal distractions and living deliberately. His experiment was a powerful testament to the era's individualistic spirit.
And it wasn't just men shaping this philosophy and pushing for new ways of thinking about society, was it? This radical belief in human perfectibility surely had broader implications.
That raises a really important point about the role of women in these movements. Margaret Fuller, a brilliant transcendentalist and pioneering feminist, was a crucial voice. Her groundbreaking work, Woman in the 19th Century, from 1845, argued forcefully for gender equality. She directly linked romantic thought to broader social reform and the belief in the perfectibility of all humans, regardless of gender. A really powerful connection.
Okay, so from the abstract ideals of philosophy to the concrete reality of our built environment, how did these ideas shape the actual buildings of the nation? Did architecture also speak to this profound cultural shift?
It certainly did. While early American architecture was often just, British Georgian styles copied over, this period saw a deliberate and symbolic transition to neoclassical styles, inspired by ancient Greece and Rome. And this wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was a conscious political one. The Greeks and Romans were symbols of democracy and republican virtue. right? So these styles were meant to visually articulate the new nation's ideals of self-governance and civic virtue.
So buildings like the Capitol in Washington, D.C. were more than just structures. They were grand statements embodying a national aspiration.
Absolutely. With its arches and that towering dome, the Capitol was designed to symbolize democracy, permanence, and those liberal ideals of republicanism and balance that were so foundational. The sheer grandeur of these structures also aimed to evoke a romantic sense of awe and sublimity, to take your breath away and instill a sense of national pride and destiny in its citizens. Very intentional.
This cultural ferment clearly wasn't happening in a vacuum, though. How did an outsider view this burgeoning American identity? Did someone manage to capture this transition from a fresh, maybe more objective perspective?
Yeah, Alexis de Tocqueville, a shrewd French observer, provided an invaluable external perspective in his Democracy in America, written between 1835 and 1840. He keenly noted how equality and liberty profoundly shaped U.S. society, inspiring not just its politics, but also its unique cultural expressions. He effectively validated the domestic observations of a truly distinct American identity emerging. He was particularly struck by the American emphasis on association and self-improvement, seeing it as both a strength and potentially a source of restless individualism.
And this fervent belief in human perfectibility we keep mentioning, did it lead to real-world social experiments? So the very concept of utopian societies, people actually trying to build a better way of life from scratch.
Absolutely. The romantic drive for human perfectibility sparked a whole wave of utopian communities. These were intentional societies built on radical new principles, where individuals literally tried to craft a perfect way of living. Two fascinating examples are the Shakers, a Christian group that held property in common, practiced celibacy, and strove for spiritual purity and communal order. Very structured. And then there was the Oneida community, which dedicated itself to perfect equality socially, with respect to property, and even extending to communal marriage and parenting. Quite radical for the time, and interestingly, they managed all this while maintaining impressive financial solvency through manufacturing.
Wow. These communities, even if, as you say, often short-lived, they really illustrate the profound impact of these romantic ideals on social experimentation. They weren't afraid to try radical new ways of living, really pushing the boundaries of what society could be.
Exactly. And this fervent belief in individual perfectibility wasn't just philosophical. It fueled real social movements. We saw this in the passionate religious revivals of the Second Great Awakening, which emphasized personal spiritual transformation and moral reform. That echoed Romanticism's belief in individual perfectibility, but on a spiritual, communal scale. And it powerfully bolstered calls for justice in the growing abolitionist movements, highlighting how cultural ideals became direct catalysts for profound social change. Again, think of Leonard Black's narrative, Margaret Fuller's feminist work. These cultural shifts had very real, very tangible consequences for society.
So you've just taken us on a deep dive into a truly transformative period. We've witnessed how America actively forged a unique cultural identity. From Noah Webster's dictionary standardizing our language, declaring linguistic independence almost, to the sweeping, idealized canvases of the Hudson River School capturing our distinctive landscapes. And from the intense individualism of transcendentalism to the soaring domes of neoclassical architecture. We've seen how European influences were intentionally sifted through an American sensibility, driven by these romantic ideals of emotion, reverence for nature, and an unwavering belief in human potential.
Exactly. This era was so much more than just a historical footnote. It fundamentally shaped the very essence of American thought and expression for centuries to come. It laid the groundwork for many of the values and debates that continue to define the nation even today. That emphasis on the individual, the profound connection to nature, the relentless pursuit of ideals, these roots run deep. They continue to inform our national character.
So, as you reflect on how America intentionally built a culture emphasizing individualism and human perfectibility, maybe consider this. This era seems to have cemented a profound American tension, the simultaneous pursuit of radical individual freedom and utopian communalism. We thought both. How do these foundational cultural shifts still echo in modern American discussions? Discussions about self-reliance, our relationship with nature, or even the pursuit of an ideal society today? And maybe, what new culture do you think we might be shaping right now? Something to think about.